Hello, this is Jordan. I'm here to discuss the two shootings that happened recently, the Philando Castile one and the Alton Sterling one. Obviously very tragic, something that needs to be talked about, definitely something that happens very often. Um, Over 102 unarmed black males were shot in 2015, which is 5 times more than how many unarmed white males were shot, which is kind of staggering, that statistic. And I think that statistic definitely doesn't, I wouldn't say it proves, but it strongly supports the idea that racism is the main issue here. Definitely. Whether it be implicit or explicit, I think the main issue is racism. So first I'm gonna discuss what I saw in the Philando Castile shooting, because I don't want to take too long, and I think that video kind of gets to the point really well, because the Alton Sterling one also tragic, but it wasn't as long and there wasn't as much material in it. So I'm going to discuss the Philando Castile one. And I was very frightened I was very not frightened, disturbed when I saw that, because Philando Castile did the right things when he was in the car. Like, he was stopped for broken taillight, which is a misdemeanor. Cop came up, asked for license and registration, and then Philando Castile said that he had a licensed firearm on him, and he was reaching for his license and registration. He was informing the cop what he was doing, which is what you're supposed to do at a stop like that. So it wasn't like Philando Castile was just reaching back, making a bunch of like jerky reactions that would frighten a cop. He was telling him what was happening. So I think that's kind of ridiculous and definitely points into the direction of racism, that racism is the issue here. Another very jarring thing that I saw in that video, which it's kind of really disturbed me, was even after he was shot and laying there, obviously extremely injured, the cop was still pointing his gun at him, and obviously was still very threatened. You could see it in him. He was like, really kind of shaking, and obviously probably very scared, but he was very threatened still, you could tell. And even when his girlfriend was getting out of the car, they made her get on her knees and detained her, and the guns were still everywhere, and it's just kind of ridiculous. And I think a large overreaction for such a simple stop that should have been like that. And even she did say that they had marijuana in the car, but regardless, that doesn't warrant guns or shooting. I mean, so you understand. And I do think the issue is racism. I don't think all cops are racist. I think to think that would be ignorant. I don't think all cops are racist. But I do think that most people in general have an implicit bias against African Americans. And that's been proved also. There's this thing called the IAT, or the Implicit Association Test, which is by Project Implicit, which is a non-profit by some scientists from Harvard. And that study, basically, it's like a test, and it shows that you have implicit biases. And the majority of people, almost everyone, has an implicit bias against African Americans. Basically everyone. Even African Americans. Knowing that, I think that we should definitely, I'm trying to think of how I should say this. I think that that's something that we should look into when we're training police officers. We should try to avoid having that implicit bias, because that implicit bias is based off of very quick reactions to situations, and that's basically what a stop like that is. It's a very quick reaction to a situation, and if we can train police officers to not have such implicit biases, I think the shootings like this could be less frequent. I think that's the main issue, is that implicit bias that people have. Are some officers probably very racist and they do it either way? Probably. But I feel like the majority of them aren't like that. I don't think police officers in general are bad people. I don't think they're out to get African Americans. But I also don't think that unarmed black people should be shot all the time. I think that's a little ridiculous in this day and age, or ever really. So that's what I think. I hope that my video was informative and helpful.